This video opens with a picture that says, "Welcome to my channel," spelled out in red and blue yarn. And today we're going to talk about that picture. That picture is the topic, I live near train tracks, of the video. So if you're returning, welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for coming back. And I try to give the brief, like the abbreviated version for new viewers of my visual condition. I was born with a condition called optic nerve hypoplasia. It just means that my optic nerve stopped developing before I was born. So I have just a really, really primitive visual system. I don't see in the daylight. I don't see color. But I love yarn. I love to knit. I love to crochet. And so that's why there's yarn in my picture. And that's why I tried to describe my opening picture. And I really am here on YouTube for so many reasons, to share the joy of knitting and crochet and yarn and my creations with the world, but also to say that creativity is for everybody. So if you have a disability, don't let that stop you. Just find another way to do it. So that's why I wanted to talk about that picture. As a yarn enthusiast, somebody who I try to knit or crochet every single day, right? So I do watch a lot of yarn channels on YouTube. I do other things too. I listen to audiobooks, listen to music. I like to watch a little TV, not too much, although I am really enjoying 1923, the sequel that's a prequel to Yellowstone. If there's any other Yellowstone or 1923 fans out there, let me know. I'm enjoying it. So I do watch a little TV, but I don't watch that much. But I do spend a lot of time on YouTube checking out knitting and crochet channels, because I like to see what other people are doing. There's a lot of crochet tutorials on YouTube. If you don't know that, if you're visually impaired, there are just tons, thousands, literally thousands of crochet tutorials on just about anything that you could imagine out there. With people that will walk you through the steps and the stitches. So if you're saying I can't read a pattern, that's okay. If you're sighted and you want to learn how to crochet and you're saying I can't read a pattern, that's okay. They'll talk you through it. You don't have to know how to read a pattern. And I'll make another video on that topic of accessing patterns, because that really is a whole nother topic. I'm really struggling to crochet and talk to you all at the same time right now. I might not be able to do it. Yeah, so don't worry about that. If you are sighted or visually impaired and you want to learn how to crochet, there are channels out there that will walk you through everything. So I spend a lot of time on YouTube listening to tutorials, getting yarn reviews, hearing about what the latest yarns are, just chatting and getting ideas from other people in the yarn lover community on YouTube. So one thing that I definitely gravitate towards is channels and creators who know how to use their words, who can tell me what color yarn they're working with in the project, what they're making. So if you're visually impaired and you're listening to me, I have a crochet shawl in my hands, and it is a free tutorial by Crystal from Bag O' Day Crochet, and she literally has thousands of free tutorials. Bless her. She loves crochet, she loves yarn, and she just wants to share that love with everybody. It's truly, she is a gift to the crochet community, because she just does that because she loves it, and she wants you to love it and enjoy it too. So this is a shawl that is her tutorial. I believe it's called her Love of My Life shawl. That's completely free. You can listen to it and she'll walk you through it. I am not using the same yarn. I don't even remember what yarn she's using. With a shawl, you don't necessarily have to even use the same yarn, especially with this particular shawl. She's using a DK weight yarn, so I chose to use a DK weight yarn as well. I am using Knit Picks We Crochet Hawthorne DK, and the color is called Astoria Tonal. And one of the many reasons why I shop at Knit Picks and We Crochet is because they have the best color descriptions on the internet, okay? I get so frustrated when I try to shop, and it doesn't even have to be yarn, it can be clothes. When they don't have a good color description, forget it. You're not getting my money, okay? If you can't tell me with your words what I'm trying to buy, you don't get my money. But they have the best color descriptions. So they describe Astoria Tonal as shades of gray with underlying tones of denim blue and sort of gray blues. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know how well this is going to show up on the camera, but it is a DK. It's a merino. No, it's not merino. It is superwash Highland wool. And it's not 100%. It's got, I think, some nylon. I do have the tag in my hand, but I cannot see it right now. So, and I don't have the info pulled up on my phone right now. But I want to say it's 70 or 80% superwash Highland wool, and then probably some nylon would be my guess in it. Maybe acrylic, probably nylon. It's super wash, so you can wash it, and it's not a merino. I can tell that just from touching it. It's not as soft as a merino, but it's a beautiful yarn, and I loved that it was Astoria Tonal. I lived in Oregon for 10 years. I visited Astoria. Okay, it's on the coast. It's a coastal community. I've been to the beaches, I've walked the beaches there, and this yarn truly does feel and even look, to the best of my completely colorblind eyes, this yarn looks like Astoria. It does. So I think that's really cool that they named it after Astoria, Oregon. I've been there, I've watched the beaches, I've picked it, I touched a jellyfish and crabs and all kinds of cool stuff on the beaches of Astoria. So this yarn, truly feels and looks like what Astoria feels and looks like. I think they really did a good job of naming it. And of course, it has special meaning to me because I've been to Astoria with one of my ex-boyfriends, who I don't hate. We're on good terms. We're on speaking terms. No, nothing bad there. So good memories of that place. So they really have some beautiful yarns, and they describe it really well. I don't know what it looks like to you folks who can see color. I don't know if it actually looks like grays and blues or not to you, but anyways, I gravitate towards course channels like Crystal's that have good tutorials, right, that will walk you through, like she literally described every step of the making of this shawl, right, in a tutorial, in a video, and how to get this far in it even. So I gravitate towards channels that can do that for me, right? That can walk me through step by step. So when I was watching those channels, I was thinking to myself, I love this, I'm enjoying this, I want to share this too, and there's really nobody out there from the visually impaired perspective who's also sharing their experiences. And I do hear people saying, well, I used to knit, but I can't see my stitches anymore. Oh, I can't crochet with black anymore, right? The things that people say as they experience vision changes. And so I wanted to be on here, on YouTube, to encourage people with visual impairments, with disabilities, whatever, to either continue with knitting and crochet or to consider picking it up as a hobby. So when I started thinking about starting a channel, I noticed that many of the channels that I listen to happen to have an opening screen, and it might say, like I watch Terry at Yarn Joy Podcast. She has a great channel over there. She's got a graphic up. I watch Shannon with Another Yarn. She has a graphic. I watch Creative Grandma. She's got like a logo on her screen, and I can see those things. I can't see what colors they are. I can't see any details on them, but I do know that they have graphics on their channels that sort of are really unique to their podcasts and their channels, that say this is me, this is who you're listening to. And so of course I thought about that and thought, oh gosh, I can't have a channel without some kind of visual graphic or opening screen, or something that says welcome to my channel, something that's uniquely mine. So of course, what did I do? I went on the internet and I was looking for like graphics, because you can buy different graphics on the internet. You can people will create graphics, and you could certainly buy them, and they have templates of welcome screens and that kind of thing on the internet that you can buy and you can use. I did try to use the app Canva. I'm not hating on Canva, I just didn't find it accessible for a visually impaired person. And they were one of the apps that had a lot of templates, a lot of stuff built into it. Now, I didn't pay for a subscription, so maybe that would have made a difference for me. I don't know. But I went ahead. By the way, if you're visually impaired, or if you're thinking about becoming a content creator and you're not super high tech like me, I use an app called VN. I think it's probably the simplest for the not super tech savvy person who wants to do videos, who's visually impaired. I'm finding it more accessible. It didn't have all the fancy templates and graphics and things, but that was okay, because in the end I couldn't see those. I tried to zoom them in, I tried to see them, to see, oh, maybe this one, maybe I like this welcome screen, maybe I like that welcome screen. And I let all those things be reasons why, oh, well, maybe you're not going to start a YouTube channel, because, that, I can't lie, is something I kind of debated about for a little while. In my head, I thought, I don't know if I should do it, I don't know if I can. Do I want to take this on? Do I want to put myself out there? Because we all know what life's on the internet, right? There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of really unhappy individuals in the world, who will literally take out their own negativity, their own self-hatred on other people on the internet, right? There's people out there who literally can't stand themselves, they hate themselves, they're miserable people, and they do nothing but sit on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and do nothing but write mean, hateful things that really they say in the mirror to themselves, right? They look in the mirror and they see themselves and they hate themselves, and so they speak those things out into the internet to other people, rather than work on their issues and their self-improvement, working on the things that they hate about themselves. They often would rather sit on the internet and say mean things to other people. So I really struggle with it. Do I really want to deal with it? I've been on Facebook, not a pleasant experience, and so I really thought, do I want to put myself out there? So of course I used that as sort of like I can't see the graphics, I'm not going to have a YouTube channel. Like, really? That was the excuse that I had in my head, was I can't possibly pick out a visual graphic that's an opener for my channel, so I can't have one. Now, if you know anything about me, if you've watched any of my videos, that's not really an acceptable excuse for me, okay? Not trying to brag on myself, but I went to 10 years of college, I went to public school, have a doctorate degree in psychology, was on the first team of, blind and visually impaired people who do Portland to Coast. I've done a lot of things in my life, right? So if you know anything about me, you know that is not really an accept. I had 3 guide dogs. I've traveled independently with them, taken planes, taken trains, Yeah, I've never raised in a household where my visual impairment was an excuse for me to get out of anything except driving. That was it. So I was expected to clean, to cook, to wash dishes, to do laundry, to do all the things, to go to college, to have a career, to support myself. That was how I was raised. So in my mind, I already knew that me not being able to see a graphic on the internet that could be my opening screen, that wasn't really an acceptable excuse for me to not have a YouTube channel. Because there are many channels that don't have that at all. They just, boom, they're on, right? So I debated about not having anything, which I still might do. If you're in the crafting community at all, you have projects like this shawl that's in my hands, and they're called a WIP, or a work in progress, right? Well, this YouTube channel is very much my WIP, okay? It's very much a work in progress. I'm still learning as I go. And so I'm very much in that learning process of trying to figure all of this stuff out. So I may very well stop using that picture. I might change up. For my first few videos, I was trying to put some pictures in at the beginning, but I don't know how to do a voiceover to narrate them for other visually impaired people, to add audio description, and I absolutely want description on the internet. That's what I'm here to talk about. And I ask people all the time, what color is this? What is that? So the last thing that I'd want to do is put pictures on my videos that I'm not describing, right? I don't want my channel to be not accessible when that's what I'm here to promote. So I was putting the pictures on first, which, by the way, are really difficult for me to even do, because even though they're my pictures, I couldn't really recognize them and find them within all my own pictures anymore. So I have a few videos where I put them in at the beginning, and then I made a separate little video at the end where I was describing them. And now, but I still didn't like that, because I just really feel like, as a visually impaired person, I want to know right then when somebody's showing a picture, I want to be included too, right? So, this channel is very much a work in progress. As a visually impaired person, I know what I like. I don't want to be told at the end of the video what pictures were on the video. So my last couple videos, I just make the video, and then based upon what projects I show in the video, if I feel like rather than put pictures in at the beginning, I'll make a second video clip and then just show the items and describe them, so that sighted people are seeing them at the end and visually impaired people are getting the description at the same time. I don't know if I'll change that up some more or not. If you haven't figured that out yet from watching my videos, I don't know how to edit visually. I don't know how to edit frame by frame, because that's kind of a visual thing. So when I do it, sometimes people think I should just go live, and maybe I should, because I live in a rural area and it takes forever. We have really slow internet. It takes forever for me to upload something. So that's definitely a thought in my head, but I do pre-record it and try to put it together. But I'm not able to edit frame by frame. So so when I hit my record button, it's pretty much like going live, okay? I can't edit all of my awkwardness out. You get it all. I can't edit out the ahs and the ums and the coughs and the, the whatevers that happen in life, the train whistles, right? All of that nonsense. I can't edit that out. So, like many people do on YouTube. So, I lost my train of thought. See, I'm not going to be able to edit that out. We're just going to have to laugh about it and roll with it. So when I was making my videos, I was struggling with, do I use any graphics at the beginning? Do I use any opening screens? Do I not? How am I going to make them accessible to the visually impaired community in the same way that I like videos to be made accessible to me? So when I put in that picture, I always like to say to people, this video opens with a picture that says welcome to my channel, spelled out in blue and red yarn. So when I realized that I couldn't see the graphics, I went through the pictures. I have no color vision. I can see a little bit. If I zoom in on some of the pictures, I could say, yeah, there's little letters. I could pick out some of the letters on some of the graphics, but I couldn't even tell if they were written in English or not, okay? And I live in America, but I couldn't tell if they said like willkommen, right? Did it say welcome in German? I didn't know for sure. Now, there's nothing wrong with my welcoming screen saying willkommen, right? But welcome in German, except it might be a little misleading because I really speak English. The show's not in German. So I wouldn't want it to be misleading. Not that I don't know a little bit of German. I did take German in high school. So I can say, useful phrases like Entschuldigung bitte, excuse me please. And I can say not so useful phrases like und die Leiche ist verschwumt. That means, and the corpse is missing in German. If you ever come up with a chance when you get to use that phrase in German, or in English, let me know. Write it in the comment section. Have you ever gotten to use that phrase? Und die Leiche ist verschwumt. And the corpse is missing. Right? But for the most part, this is going to be done in English. And so I wanted to know that my graphics said what it was advertised to say, and I couldn't verify that with my eyes. Now, I could have sent links to my sister, my mom, and said, what does this say? What does this say? What does this say? What colors are in it? But this isn't their circus. Not their monkeys, not their circus, right? This channel is my channel. And my sister works full time. And my mom is in her 70s, and she needs me to help her figure out, how to find things on the internet and shop on Amazon for her. When she wants to buy something on Amazon, she calls me and says, can you buy this for me on Amazon, okay? So, not a lot of tech skills there. Love her, but the technology, she's got talents. She was a nurse her whole life, but technology is not her strength. So I knew, even though she could visually look at a picture, I thought, this is my channel. They never raised me to be dependent on others, ever. We were like latchkey children of the 80s, okay? Both my parents worked full-time, sometimes multiple jobs at a time. So, very much raised to be an independent thinker, okay? And problem solver of my own life. So for me to all of a sudden be like, oh, well, I need a sighted person. Not that I don't ask. Of course I can ask sighted people questions on the internet and help with things, of course. But I knew that this project wasn't their project. So I thought, well, and I still haven't fully decided on what I want this channel to be about. Is it about knitting? Is it about crochet? I really haven't. It's not just, it is about knitting and crochet, because that's what I do every day. That's my passion. That's my hobby. That's what I'm fully immersed in. That's what I spend my time doing on YouTube. But I also want it to be a place for people with visual impairments, people who have disabilities, people who are becoming disabled, to find a place that says you can do things. Don't let people tell you can't. And something that I tell people all the time about having a disability is that we do the same things as you do. We just do them differently, right? I wash dishes. I just do it by feel, right? I went to college. I just had a guide dog at my side and took the bus. So, and in my family, I learned how to do laundry. I learned how to, do all the things, just differently. So I didn't want my inability to see that to be like some kind of barrier for me. I didn't want to be asking other people to do things for me, and I also didn't want it to be my excuse on, oh my gosh, I can't see the graphics on the internet, so I can't do this, right? Never my thing. Never my thing. But I thought, even though this channel is going to talk a lot about knitting and crochet as a visually impaired person, and I do want my screen to somehow represent that, and I want it to represent my love of yarn. So then I started thinking about like AI, and I thought, and I'm not, or like a graphics app, and I know that there are lots of art apps and graphic apps where I could easily create my own so that I would know. But then I thought, am I really gonna know what it says? Because I have yet to find a graphic art design app that's accessible for people who are visually impaired. Now, it's very likely there could be one out there. I don't know. I'm not the most tech savvy visually impaired person out there. I'll be the first to tell you that, and it's not necessarily just because I'm visually impaired. I have friends who are totally blind who have far better computer and technology skills and knowledge than I do. Okay, I am 47, tail end of Gen X. I'm probably a little above average when it comes to technology skills and know-how, because I've had to use adaptive technology and screen readers and things for most of my life, and it's rare that schools and agencies and places have somebody that can help with that can help me figure out how to make my screen reader talk to the the electronic. I worked as a psychologist for a while, that could talk to the electronic charting system. That was always a big issue. How are you going to do forms? How are you going to do paperwork? And it was rare that they either had somebody on staff or even had somebody that had a clue about how to make forms and documents and things accessible. Now, I don't really know anymore. Like, I don't even know how to make websites accessible. I'm not that tech savvy. I learned technology in the 80s and 90s. I learned on DOS systems. That's like way before a lot of people's times. I learned when your computer started, it said C:\\/ greater than, and I learned how to go in and manipulate that system, figure out what was going on and how to, make, change that and change how the system loaded. And I learned how to do all that stuff on those types of systems. But once I got into my own college education, I started using Windows more, and they got more advanced with the technology. I really focused on my education, my specialty, my life, my guide dogs, my boyfriends, and I left the technology to the experts. But when I first started learning computers, I did learn how to do that simply because back then, what I wanted my technology or a program fixed or a programming issue, it literally meant boxing up my entire system, shipping it halfway across the country with a 2 to 4 week return window on it. Okay, it wasn't now where they got remote access to your system and they can fix it over the phone. It was not that way at all. So I did have some tech skills back in the 90s. But that's where my technology skills really ended once things advanced more in technology. I left that up to the experts. So I don't know about coding or any of that stuff today. So it's very possible that there are graphics apps out there that are accessible to the visually impaired. I don't know. And if you're visually impaired or you work with technology and computers for people who are visually impaired, if you work with adaptive technology, accessible technology, and I would love to hear from you. How do you do that? Is there apps that can help visually impaired people create graphics? I think that with AI, that is probably already there. I don't really do a lot of stuff with AI. I do because I use things like dictation, right? That's already AI, where I'm speaking to the machine, right? The phone, and it then is trying to interpret what I say. Right, when I do use Facebook, it uses what's called computer generated image description, where it tells me but it kind of gets it wrong a lot of times, or it's very vague. And so I know, I mean, I pretty much, if you're on the internet at some point, you're using AI. But I don't really have a lot of the apps that do it. I did think about it. I thought really hard about trying out some kind of like image generating AI app, because I was picturing for an opening screen, I was thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if my opening screen was like a ball of yarn that rolled across the screen and spelled out the W and the E and the L, right? If it was like rolled across the screen and spelled out welcome and unraveled itself, and I thought like an animated graphic. And I thought, well, I will have to make sure though that I know what it's doing and what it's saying so that I can describe it to my other visually impaired people who might be listening. And I don't know how to do that. Now, probably somebody will hear this and go ahead and do that for their channel, and that's fine, whatever. Because I know that there are incredibly powerful graphic design, artistry type apps out there that can help you do things like that. So that's definitely on my mind. At some point, you might totally not see my little picture spelled out in yarn. You might see some AI generated animated graphic that spells it. I don't know. I'm not that tech savvy so far. To be honest with you, I'd rather sit here with my hook in my hand or my needles in my hand and my yarn, and I'd rather create something tactile with my hands, right, that I can wear, or a blanket or a shirt. That's the kind of creativity that I do. There's nothing wrong with people using the AI as a tool for those kinds of things. That's just not the kind of creativity that I'm really into. Obviously AI is a tool. Is it a little scary? Yeah, it's kind of scary. Where it could take us, absolutely. But we definitely can use it as a tool, and we should try to understand it as best we can. So I'm not opposed to people, although I'm not really one who's excited right now to use AI on my channel. I know that there are content creators who do. That's their thing. Some people, do extensive creativity with AI. Some people write whole books with AI. If you haven't experienced that yet, there are literally books out there that have been written with AI. Some people use it to write their posts on social media. I do not. I'm raw and I'm real. What you get is what you get. This is me. I know that there are some content creators who are like, well, I just use ChatGPT to generate content for my podcast, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I've never done that. I've got 47 years of life experience and 3 guide dogs in college and life that I can talk about, right? Like we're doing right now. We're just chatting about my life. So, I have yet to do that, but I think it's probably the coming future on social media. I'd love to hear people's thoughts about that. Are you a content creator? Do you use AI? Do you not? If you're a viewer, do you notice when people are using AI? Do you like it more? Do you not? I'm like, well, I really like real. I think it's the era that I grew up in. I think it's just me. I like real people. I like authentic. That's just one thing that I love about YouTube, is that it's raw people, it's real people with real life, right? With dogs barking in the background and, kids busting in the room and like on mine, you're going to hear the trains, right? I mean, you're just going to get real life. And I just find that more relatable for me. I'm like, these are just people like me. These aren't like special celebrities. It's not an exclusive club. It's just real people. So, but I'd love to hear from people out there who are listening. Are you more into that? Are you not? Who knows? At some point I might play with that. I'm not brave enough to do it yet. And my fear, of course, is that if I create something with the AI, right? If I speak in to the AI app and I say, create me an animated graphic that's a yarn ball spelling across the screen what I want to spell, I still won't be able to visually see for sure before I use it. And that's what concerns me. I'm like, but how do I know it really says what it says? Right? Just because I told the AI what I want doesn't mean that's really what it gave me, okay? Yeah, for sure. It gets image descriptions wrong on the internet all the time. And it's not always accurate. If you play with AI at all, you know that it's created by humans. So it's not perfect like humans. It's flawed like humans. It makes mistakes like humans. It lies like humans. So, it's there. But I'm not, and I'm not saying that's going to happen when I generate a image or an opening screen. But those were all the things that go through my mind. I know my mind's a busy place, y'all. If you haven't figured that out yet, my mind is a busy place. There's lots going on up there. But those were sort of all the things that, yeah, really, all that went on in my head before I made a YouTube video. Really, really. So if you're thinking of making a channel and you're like, well, if you're going through the process, yeah. That's like the process, right? All of that, like, oh, I don't know. Well, maybe. Well, should I? Well, I should stop and feel my project and make sure. Also, if you knit and crochet, you should actually do like a tactile check of your project now and then to feel for mistakes. Because, otherwise you got to go back and rip it, do some frogging, which I'm crocheting, so that's much easier to do than knitting, as I explained in my previous Finish It Friday video. My vine lace stockings, there were mistakes in there, and I was not going to try to unknit or rip out lace knitting. I wasn't going to unknit it by feel. So crochet, much more forgiving, but still I'd rather not. So I am trying to do a check here of my stitches. So if you're visually impaired, it's better to do it more often when you're crocheting or knitting, to just kind of feel your project a little bit and make sure that there's not mistakes in there, so that you don't work and then have to rip, because that's sad face, right? Sad face. So anyways, but those were the things that were going through my mind, all of that. So I'm not saying I won't do that in the future. I might download a graphics AI app and make myself some new fancy animation to open my screen, right? To open up my videos with. And then you won't hear me, then they'll be able to even get like a computer generated voice that will describe it for the visually impaired people. It'll go along with it. Who knows what it'll even sound like, right? So, but all of that was going through my head. And I was like, well, you don't have to have one at all. And I thought, but you could make an opening picture that says welcome to your channel. And I just knew it had to be about yarn. It had to have something to do with yarn. And so I thought you could go try to figure out the AI and go high tech, or you could rewind back to your childhood of the 80s, right? Rewind to the 80s, right? As a child of the 80s, played with like Legos and tinkered toys and did all kinds of tactile stuff, blocks, and built and did the things in my childhood. And I thought, why not literally make something tactile? A picture that you created yourself with your own hands that says welcome to my channel. Do something with the yarn that is tactile, right? So that's kind of how that whole process came about. It's a simple little picture. It is not perfect. It is not professional. Nobody's ever gonna pay me to be their graphic artist. That's a promise. Nobody's ever going to pay me to do that for them. Somebody's probably going to make fun of it at some point, because this is the internet, right? So at some point, somebody's probably gonna laugh at it. It is not a perfect picture. It is not perfectly edited. It is not perfectly cropped. I did all that myself. If you are visually impaired, it literally is my hardwood floors in my living room, and then I got out like a white sheet and spread it out on the floor, and then just started playing with yarn, right? Like yarn comes in about 3 different shapes. I don't think I have all the shapes here to show you. I don't. But I don't have a cake of yarn in here. But yarn pretty much comes in 3 shapes. You've got like this skein, which is what I'm holding up. It's sort of like a cylinder or an oblong. It's a Knit Pick Shine Sport. And then it comes in hanks. I've already lost my spare hank of yarn, but I had it earlier. Y'all saw it. Oh, right here. So, this is just like a hank. It's the Astoria Tonal Hawthorne DK, right? It's just like a hank of yarn. So I just started playing with my yarn, which I love to do, by the way. It was just an excuse to be like, oh no, I'm gonna have to dig in Yarn Mountain and start playing with my yarn. Oh no! I love doing that. I love touching my yarn. I love playing with my yarn. I love any excuse for it, okay? So that was just pure joy for me. I can't even lie. That was like way more fun for me, okay? I'm the kid that liked to play with boxes as a child, okay? I'm the kid who you could give me the Christmas gift, you could give me the fancy toy that came in the box, and I'm like, I want to play with the box, right? That was way more interesting to me, to be like, what can I imagine or create or do with the box? That was way more fun for me. So it was rather than me get on an AI app or me try to look at graphics anymore, which I did a lot of, trying to look for something that said welcome to my channel. It was way more fun for me to get into my yarn and then start looking at, yarn comes in circular cakes too, of different sizes, and I don't have one. I didn't even think about getting one here before I started this video. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I often design a lot of my own knitwear. I'm super new to crochet, so I don't design a lot of my crochet projects yet because I don't understand crochet very well yet. So that's part of the reason why I'm making this shawl by Crystal, because I want to understand crochet better, right? I want to understand shaping. I wanted a basic project. I wanted a beginner project. I wanted something, I still do definitely consider myself a beginner when it comes to crochet. I've been crocheting for less than a year. I definitely still consider myself a beginner when it comes to crochet. So if you're visually impaired, the shawl that I'm working on is it's like a crescent. It's going to be like the half sort of go around the shoulders. It gets wider. It starts at the top of the neck and then it gets wider, and it has 8 points on it. And so I don't really understand shaping even with crochet yet. So that's one of the many reasons why I'm doing this shawl, because it's simple, it's got some shaping, it's got some increases, and I want to understand so I can become a better crochet designer. I want to understand crochet better. I want to understand increases and shaping and all the things that I understand with knitting. So when I design and knit, where I was going with that, is that I often design on the fly. I just design as I go. So that's kind of how I do some of these videos, if you haven't figured out yet. I know that there are some folks who literally use teleprompters. There are some folks that have notes, you know, and that's totally cool. Like, I get it. If I had notes, if I had the ability to write notes, I probably would, and I probably could make some for myself in Braille. I can still read for very, very brief periods of time. I could still read like a large print and Sharpies. I could like, you know, write big notes in Sharpies or something. But then I'd be looking at them and trying to see them and talk to y'all. And I think you'd rather just, you know, talk to me, right? Hear from me. So I don't have the yarn cake here. That's where I was going with that. But it was way more fun for me to say, you know what? Instead of go high tech with the AI, go low tech, right? Go completely low tech, like you're a 5-year-old child again, playing on the floor, right? And so that's what I did, is I just started getting out my different hanks of yarn, my different skeins of yarn, and started shaping them into, you know, into the letters like I did. Like I'm shaping this and it would be upside down. If you were looking at it, it would be like an A. It's from my perspective, it's a U. So I'll turn it around so you can see it as a U. So I just started playing on the floor as if I was 5, getting into my grandma's yarn, right? I just started having fun. Like honestly, even though it took me like literally hours, if you don't know that, I have 2 graphics, one that says welcome to my channel and one that says thank you for watching, both spelled out in yarn. Those literally took me hours to make. It wasn't simple, but you know what else? I also spent hours on the internet trying to visually see graphics that I can't see. So I was like, go low tech, go rewind to your childhood, go back and play on the floor, do something tactile that you can do, that you will create with your own hands. Because this channel is all about creativity. That's what we're here to do. We're here to create. This world's become so digital. And we have to embrace that, right? If it wasn't for technology and computers, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. If we didn't have YouTube, we wouldn't be here, right? So we have to have, this is on my phone, by the way. I don't even have a computer. I do this on my phone, which is a tripod. That's it. But if we didn't have technology, I wouldn't even be here talking to you guys. I use a screen reader, so I use a lot of technology. My phone reads out to me what's on the screen, and then I use dictation, so it listens to me. So we have to embrace technology. And I think making digital content is a good thing, obviously, or I wouldn't be here on YouTube. But I also really feel like as we move so much closer to the digital era and digital content, you know, people, like I said, are literally allowing AI to write books, write poetry, which, okay, maybe you'll make money. Maybe you'll publish a book of poetry written by the AI. But poetry is supposed to be like this personal, you know, intimate, my experience of the world and, you know, my emotions, and they're writing songs now in music with the AI, and I guess that's where we're going with it. But, you know, it's like, does that machine, I mean, and the AI was developed by humans, but does that machine really know, you know, if you're writing this, it's supposed to be like your experience of love or rejection or emotion or whatever it is. Like I love music. If you can't tell that in my videos, I sing randomly. Sometimes I literally just make up songs in my head. Like when I walk around my house, I sing to myself, right? I'll just be singing like da da da, you know, and I'll just make up. I'd rather sing something than say something to myself, even if there's nobody around to hear it. And there's the trains that I won't be able to edit out of my video. So I sort of think that I really want us to sort of balance in life. To me, that's so important. Yes, of course, we're using technology and embracing it, but I don't ever, which is one of the things why I love knit and crochet. I don't crochet and talk very well at the same time. I can do it. I do it on the phone when I'm talking to my mama. I crochet all the time when she's talking to me, but I'll be the first to admit I'm not getting very far in this video with my crochet project, because I'm talking. And anyways, so I really feel like that's something, one of the many reasons why I love knit and crochet, because it's a tactile art that we do with our hands. Not hating or anything on digital content creation. I just feel like there's something so different that happens in our brains. I do have a degree in psychology, okay. I do understand neurotransmitters a little bit. I'm not like, I didn't major in neuropsych, but I did take neuropsych in graduate school, and it was my favorite class. If I was sighted, I probably would have gone into neuropsych. I probably should have, but of course that was one of the few times I listened to the naysayers, right, that were like, I don't know if you can do this because you can't see, right? Probably I should have been like, oh, I know it wouldn't even be right for me to operate on brains, right? But still probably should have pursued that more, because I absolutely love neuropsych, love understanding the brain more, neurotransmitters more. If you watch my very first video that says introduction, it's this full deep dive into my visual condition, the neuroanatomy, and I love that stuff with when I was in graduate school. So I really feel like, and we seem to know that, at least with crochet, that it definitely helps us cognitively and mentally. And so I really think that we engage different areas of our brain when we're actually building something with our hands, right? When we're creating something, something physical, something tangible. I mean, yes, we can create digital graphics. There's nothing wrong with that. We can work within fields that involve, the virtual world. But I really think that we're losing that as a people, right? Like, we can go to the store, we can go to Walmart now and buy, 3 pairs of socks for $10, and that's nice. It is nice. It's actually way cheaper now to go out and buy manufactured goods than it is to knit and crochet your own goods anymore, right? That's the amazing thing, is that people used to hand knit, hand sew all of their clothing, and now we've mass produced everything, right? And so knitting and crochet is actually, it's kind of an expensive hobby. I used to, as a therapist, I used to say, oh, knitting and crocheting is cheaper than therapy. I don't know if it actually is. Okay, I mean, I guess it would depend on how often you saw your therapist, but I mean, if you saw your therapist 4 times a month for $150 an hour, let's just say, that would be $600 a month. I could probably easily blow $600 a month on yarn. I'm just saying. So people have said it, like, oh, well, knitting and crocheting, it's cheaper than therapy. Is it though? Is it really? Is it therapeutic? Absolutely, it is therapeutic. I would recommend it because I think it's very therapeutic. But is it cheaper than therapy? I don't know. I wouldn't want to have to compare my receipts, just saying, between therapy and the yarn budget. But I think we're really missing that today. And I think that there's something rewarding. I think not just within our reward system in our brain. Yes, we have a reward system in our brain. That's what happens with addictions, right? Addictions, gambling, social media. That's how people get addicted to social media. You get a like on your post, boom, boom, like, ding, 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 ding. It's literally like the slot machine that goes ding, 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 right? It's true. That's what happens in your brain. So I think that we get such a rewarding piece. I find knitting and crochet, it's my piece. When I'm doing something and building and creating something with my hands, it's like a happiness. It's a true internal pure joy and peace. And it's an expression of love when I make you something, right? So I think that we really miss that in the world today. And so that's one of the many reasons why I love knitting and crocheting. So when I was making that graphic, I just knew I had way more fun, even though it doesn't look professional, even though someone's probably going to make fun of it, even though no one's going to pay me to play on the floor and spell out with letters. Like, I'm not going to make a career. If you do graphic design on computers, you can make a living out of that. You probably are. You're designing logos and t-shirts, and if you're advertising, and if you design the Nike swoosh, who would have thought, right? That would be such a big thing, right? Or just like the little Amazon smile dealy thing. I mean, who knew such simple things, such simple graphics would become recognizable worldwide? So yes, you can absolutely make a career out of doing computer graphics. You're not ever gonna make a career playing with yarn on the floor, okay? But to me, that ended up being my choice because I knew for sure what it was going to look like, although I can't still see that. I know that there's more than blue and red yarn in the picture. I honestly couldn't remember the colors of the yarns. I have a lot of yarn. I have a mountain of yarn. So I couldn't even remember the colors of all the yarns that I was using. And if I ever figure them all out, I'll be sure to include more than just blue and red in the description for the visually impaired people who are listening. But I truly don't remember. So, but that to me was what I wanted this channel to represent. I wanted it to represent yarn. I wanted it to represent creativity, because it's not just about knitting and crochet. This channel's about creativity. This channel's about adapting, because when you're visually impaired, you have to be adaptable. You have to do things differently than the sighted world, than how everybody else is doing it, right? You wash your dishes with your eyes. You say, oh, there's still some spaghetti sauce right there. Whoop, doop, 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 doop. Clean that off, right? I don't. I do it by feel. When I clean my countertops, you're like, oh, there's some hot cocoa on the counter. I have to feel it, right? So I already do things differently. I have to do things creatively. And so I want this channel to really be representative of that, about how people with disabilities can still do things. We just do them differently. So yeah, my welcome to my channel and my thank you for watching pictures look different than other people's, because as someone with a disability, I do things differently. It doesn't look professional. Like I said, you're not going to make a career out of it. But I wanted it to be representative of who I am, of my life, and of what I want this channel to be. I want it to be a place for if you were born with a disability like myself, or you have an acquired disability due to aging, due to an accident, due to trauma, whatever. It doesn't even need to be a visual disability. I just want this to be a place that encourages you to say, if I can't do the things the way that other people do them, that's not going to stop me, right? I'm going to find another way. So am I thrilled with my welcome to my channel picture? It's okay. It's okay. I had way more fun making it, but it still looks a little wonky because I even edited and cropped it myself. So if it looks a little listed and crooked, it's because I did that myself. So, but I really wanted that to be what this channel says to people, was that me not being able to pick out a visual graphic from my channel was not at all an excuse, and never has been an excuse in my life. When I said I can't pick out a visual graphic like everybody else, I can't make a digital artistic, I can't do that, right? Like I can't get a graphics app and create my own picture that looks like everybody else's. I never accept that as I can't do that. It's never been acceptable in my life. For my family, for how I was raised, for the adult I become. When people said you can't move to a town that you've never been to before, Portland, right? I spent my whole life in Washington, never been to. Oh, I don't think you should move there with your guide dog. Your family's not there. Your boyfriend's not there. You don't know this city. You're going to be taking. I don't think you can do that and go to graduate school. I was like, well, if that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do. So I've never let that I can't do it the way everybody else is doing it, or I'm visually impaired, so I can't do. I've never let that be a thought. I don't let that thought into my head. So I want this to be a channel that says to anybody who's struggling with those things to say, try it. You know, try something different then. Do something totally different then, okay? Don't, just because you can't knit like everybody else, just because you can't crochet, and I can't crochet and have this conversation with you very well, but just because you can't do something because of a disability or a health condition or whatever, just because you can't do it like everybody else does it, doesn't mean you should say, no, I can't do that. That's the end of the line. That's a barrier. I'm going to let somebody else do it for me, or I'm not going to do it at all. If you want to learn how to knit and crochet, try it. If you want to try to do it, I want to say just about anything. Obviously, you need to, take safety of yourself and others into consideration, right? If you're visually impaired, don't go out and start driving a car. Well, she said we can do it, safety. So, but if there's careers, if there's things, if there's hobbies that you want to explore in life, if you want to learn how to cook, again, be safe, right? Be safe. When you're, cooking with a hot stove or whatever. But if you want to learn how to do things in life, find a new hobby, find a new thing to do, don't let something that simple keep you from trying something new, for taking a risk, even if it doesn't work out, right? Even if you find out you don't like it, then you learn something. Even if you try crocheting or knitting and you find out, I don't like it, that's okay. You found that out. If you hadn't tried it, you wouldn't actually know that you didn't like it. So you learned something about yourself. So, look at life, look at knitting and crocheting and everything else in life as that, just a learning opportunity to do a little collection of data on yourself. Find out what you like and what you don't like. I worked in college counseling, and a lot of times when I have clients with difficulties with the classes, they'll say, you don't like that. That's not your thing. So that's not what you're going to major in. So what classes do you enjoy, right? It was like, well, you're not enjoying that class. Let's just get you through that class, right? So you can get a passing grade. You don't enjoy that topic. So let's just get you through it so you get a passing grade. But maybe that's not your major so much, right? So maybe we need to find another major, or maybe college isn't even for you. That's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. So try new things. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I really want to do that, but I'm going to do it differently because I can't do it the way that everybody else does it. We're not all meant to be the same, okay? I was born differently. My eyes are not properly wired to my brain. So we're not all meant to be the same. And that's totally okay, right? It is okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I talk about that picture in my opening Alive, and I describe it, and I want people to understand why I describe it for people, because I want to make this channel as accessible as possible to people who are visually impaired. But I also really wanted to share with people sort of my journey in getting to this channel, why I created it, what I'm doing here, what I sort of want the larger message of this channel to be. Yes, I love yarn. Yes, I love to knit and crochet. Yes, I love to design knitwear, and I hope that I get better at crochet so that I can design more than just, hats and crowns and stuff in crochet, and do more than just add, crochet trim here and there. I want to get past that with my designing. the shorts or the skirt, right? Like I knit this skirt and I put a little crochet lace. The skirt is holly berry. It's like a dark burgundy red. Designed that myself out of the crochet trim. That's white on the bottom. I designed these are the blue shorts that I was wearing in a previous video. They are knit on the top with the knit 2 purl 2 waistband, and then they've got the knit stockinette on the main body to cover a nice dense knit fabric, which is what I love about knitting for things like shorts and skirts, is you get like a nice dense fabric so that it, you know, keeps the private parts private, right? You want to be covered. But then I love the flexibility of crochet, and that I put some single crochets, then some half double crochets, and then a crochet ruffle. These are shorts that I designed myself, designed them in my head as I was designing. These are my prototype for sure. They aren't perfect at all, but you can see the little crotch divide in them. It's not a skirt. I've designed a lot of knit skirts, which I love doing, but I knew I wanted to try doing shorts like this. So I can design basics with crochet. I can design with crochet sort of off of a knit project, but I'm still super new to that. I'm still trying to understand shaping with crochet. I'm still trying to understand how crochet works, which, like I said, is why I'm doing this shawl. I want to understand increases. I want to understand the math better. I want to understand the shaping better. So it's a beautiful pattern too. If you follow Crystal, she makes patterns that are super easy for beginners. They're easy to follow, but they're beautiful too, right? This shawl is beautiful. I'm laying it out there for people to see if you're visually impaired on the bed. So she makes easy to follow patterns that are beautiful as well. She creates them herself. She's got an incredibly artistic mind. So, and being new to crochet, I chose this one. So I'm just trying to understand it better so that I can create and do a lot more. So when you're trying new things, whether it's knitting or crocheting or it's anything else, don't be afraid, whether it is trying to figure out how am I going to do this. Don't be afraid to just experiment and just try things, because so many people never do things in life because they're afraid to try. Fear is huge, and fear gets in the way. They lack the confidence. They have fear and they don't want to do it. Or they just say, well, I can't because of this, or I can't because of that. And they will never reach their full potential as a person, right? They'll never ask that person out on a date because they're too afraid. They'll never apply for that job because they're too afraid. They'll never run for a political office, even on their city council, because they're afraid. They won't try. They won't even pass some classes in college. I've seen it in my office. They'll have the paper written, but they're too afraid to turn it in. I've had those students in my office who have failed classes, who've done the work, but they're too afraid to turn it in, okay? So I really want to speak to those people out there who are struggling with fear, who are struggling with anxiety, who are struggling with relationships, with feeling stuck in life, with feeling barriers to life, not just creativity, but life in general. Don't be afraid to try things, because when I designed the shorts, I just had the blue shorts in my hand. I probably had to try those like 3 times and rip them out like 3 times, and these still aren't how I wanted them. I wear them. I wore them the other day in a video. I wear them around my house. I just wasn't picturing them as high-waisted. These ended up being high-waisted shorts. And that wasn't what I had pictured in my mind, because I don't wear a lot of high-waisted stuff. It's just kind of a different, it's not that I pay attention to trims. I don't. But I was just thinking of a little bit of a lower on the waist, and they ended up being high-waisted. That's not how I pictured them in my mind, but I still wear them. They're still comfortable. They're still fun. I still learned a lot in the process of making them. So I didn't let that stop me. And then I made another pair in red that I like better, that's a little shorter than I wanted. So I'll get the Goldilocks pair pretty soon, the just right pair, right? So whether it's knitwear design or it's jobs or it is graphic design or whatever it is that you're trying to do, I want to be that voice out there that says, try it, do it. You know, it might not turn out the way you pictured it. It might not turn out the way that you thought it was going to turn out, like those shorts, right? They didn't turn out the first time how I wanted. Don't be afraid to try and just consider it a learning process. And don't be afraid to do something, even if you got to do it differently than everybody else. Don't be afraid to do that. That was kind of the message. That was like a way too long, roundabout way of getting to the point. If you listen to my channel at all, you know that I don't really come into these with a script. I have sort of an idea, and then I just sort of go on a detour, recalculating route, right? Get back to the point. So I think I should probably stop talking on this topic. But I hope I got the point across to people. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to do things differently than other people. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be hard on yourself if it doesn't turn out exactly the way that you wanted. And I might try mine again sometime. I might eventually get an AI graphics app and do some kind of crazy wild animation. I don't know. I'm just not feeling that right now. I'm feeling the do it tactily with my hands, right? Build it with my hands. That's what I love. My brain loves to create and build things tactily. I love to create in general. And I love to create outside, obviously in the digital world, because we're talking. But I love to create in the physical and the tactile, to be, that's where my mind, my brain lights up. So yeah, that's the message. So that was super long. Sorry about that. Anyways, thanks so much for stopping by today, spending a little bit of your time with me, inviting me into your home to hang out. I really hope, I should have told you, get a beverage, get some coffee or some tea or a glass of wine, get a project. Hopefully you did. Hopefully you're like crafting, knitting, crocheting, or folding your laundry. I don't know what we're doing together, but hope we're hanging out together. Hope you found something to do. But thanks so much for choosing to come back. If you're new, thanks for checking me out. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button. Feel free to share it. Feel free to talk about it. Please feel free to leave me a comment about any of the topics I discussed about visual impairments, disability, AI creation. Even if you think my graphic looks, you know, stupid. I mean, I guess you can say that if you want, if you're right. Whatever. If you know of a graphics app for visually impaired people, let me know. I'd love to know if you have one that's actually accessible. Let me know. Love to hear that. But that's kind of my thoughts for today. So remember what I like to close with. No matter what it is, knitting, crocheting, sewing, quilting, sculpting, writing, beading, baking, you can be creative in the kitchen too. No matter what it is, today is a great day to craft and create. We're all about the creativity here. Creativity is for everybody. So get creative in your life today. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Here is a close-up of the blue, dark blue shorts that I was wearing and discussing. You can see the knit to purl to ribbing on the waistband. And just like I talked about with the stockings, you can see that I sew in a tactile turning row, where if I'm doing knit to purl to for like 20 rounds or something, then I do 1 round of knit to purl to, and it creates a tactile ridge that you can fold. And then I go and I do the knit to purl to again. And you can see on the inside that that's just plain old elastic sewn on the inside there. And then I whip stitch the waistband, and it's not perfect, I'll be the first to admit it, but having that tactile fold in there really helps. And when I was sewing these, I did have to rip it out once and redo it because it definitely was not straight. It's still not perfect. Nothing that I create is perfect, okay? So we got some shaping on the sides, and then we've got where I made the divide for the legs, for the crotch. You can see there where I started crochet, and I just did like a simple crochet chain for that divide. That's so much simpler for me. I could have kept knitting. I love to knit, but I'll be the first to admit it would be harder for me to do that with knitting. So I did several rows with single crochet. I think I did about 5 rows of single crochet, couple rows of the half double, and then I just started with the white then and put in this little ruffle. I think I did 2 rows of the double crochet for the ruffle. Super fun. Oh my gosh, they're super comfy, and that's the name of the yarn, by the way. The yarn is Knit Picks Comfy Worsted. The blue is called Planetarium, and the white is just white. Super comfy. So, let's see. I did briefly show the Holly Berry skirt. The waistband is done the same way. Knit to, purl to, same kind of casing, same shaping. And then I just did a row of single crochet before I went into double crochets. Did a row double crochet, chain 1, and then kept expanding that until I could get shells basically for the point. So I hope people can see that. I don't know for sure. It's little pointed shells on the hem of the skirt. And then of course, let me share with you the yarn when I was talking about, hang on. If you want to see the label of the yarn, it's the Knit Picks Wheat Crochet Hawthorne DK Astoria Tonal. And it will tell you what it's made out of. It's a number 3. Besides the Superwash Highland wool, I don't remember what the other thing is, but it's not 100% wool. But if you're looking for that, you can see that. And then this is, as you can tell, I didn't even get 1 row done in because I was conversating and thinking and all of that stuff while I was talking to you all. So I didn't do a ton of crocheting in the video, but there's a close-up, and it is from Bag O' Day Crystal, and I do believe it's called Love of My Life shawl. It's a simple 8-pointed shawl, and it's just me trying to understand increasing and shaping better when it comes to crochet. So hopefully get you some close-ups of the design for people who are visually impaired. And that's the Astoria Tonal, which is supposed to be a mix of grays and blues. That's what Knit Picks tells me. Don't actually know if that's true. Anyways, love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.